ran a game of Dungeons and Dragons. Every Wednesday we play that game of Dungeons and Dragons, and every Thursday we then do a post-mortem. Wow. Yeah. Sometimes figuratively, sometimes literally on that game of Dungeons and Dragons. I am your co-host and dungeon master, Mr. Tom Lommel. I am the Dungeon Bastard. This is my co-host and a fearless leader of our Saving Throw channel, Mr. Dom Zook, everyone.
Hello.
Yeah.
How's it going?
I hope you are enjoying and appreciating the lavalierness of our sound amplification.
I know, look at this. I can do this.
Yeah, and then nobody's like, ah, my ear, I can literally go like this.
Yeah, you literally could.
Yeah. Everything's great.
Wow.
Yes. You would like all of the things that are behind us. Maybe we'll raffle off some of the stuff behind us.
No, we need that. That's our
point.
set.
All of it?
All of it.
Look, some of this stuff is mine, right? That's my Castle Grayskull.
Yeah. They can't see that.
They can't even see that. No. Technically these dice are mine, but I'm clearly not attached to them. So, yes. There's a microphone up here. That's how it works. So, yes. All right. He'd be happy if we had no set. We used to run that show. It was based in Tyler's garage. We like to think that we've improved our game, but maybe not. Maybe not. So, as you may or may not be aware, this week is the season finale, the final session of our epic Expedition to the Barrier Peaks adventure arc here that we have been so diligently pursuing here on Saving Throw Show. It's going to be a big barn burner, I think. We are starting at a special time tomorrow night. I'm going to mention this several times throughout the show, but tomorrow night we're starting at 7 o'clock, not 8 o'clock Pacific. Right. So we're starting an hour early. I sat down and said, well, listen, I know these things always go long. I would rather have them start an hour early and go 4 hours than start at a regular time and go to like 12:15 and everybody's, their eyelids are trying to prop them open and whatnot. So keep that in mind. The show will start an hour early. You will be sad that you missed some things if you show up at 8 or even at 7:45, because we're going to start at 7 Pacific tomorrow night. So
tell your friends.
Tell your friends, tell your neighbors, spread the word on the internet. I've been trying to reinforce it as much as I can on Twitter, but hey, so we're going to start an hour early. It's going to be a big... We've got a lot to burn through. What do we have to burn through? Well, let's take a look at our topics for today. So we're doing our finale planning today, right? We're going to talk about not necessarily all the specifics, probably not necessarily many of the specifics. We're going to talk about the elements and the general shape of a adventure finale and what that looks like, right? So we're going to talk about what plot threads we still have open that it's mandatory for us to resolve. The players will be mad if we do not take care of these things. Chop, 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 slam, bounce, punch. We are going to talk about the allies, the enemies, and the X factors who could be involved in this final session, right? So we're going to take stock of everybody that the party has met who are considered to be allies. We're going to take stock of everybody that they've either encountered or aware of who could be enemies. And we're going to talk about some people who maybe don't necessarily fit into either of those categories, who have sort of what I call an X Factor role in terms of they could show up as the cavalry. They could show up as like, oh, you bastards, we hate you, we're going to murder you. Any of those things. So we're going to run down that list. We're going to talk about possible locations that we could include in our final session, in our finale. I think, as we talked about last week, it's important to have that, if you're going to have a capper, to have some sort of epic set piece location for the final confrontation to take place, right? Obviously, we've been pushing towards a confrontation with Xanathar, right? So at some point, I assume the party is going to fight, confront whatever Xanathar, and then where does that combat take place, and what are kind of some of the dimensions around it? That's what we're going to talk about with possible locations where that could be, right? We are going to talk about the major themes and elements that we can, revisit, yes. So over the course of the adventure, we have introduced a number of motifs, if you will. The party has really been, we've had a number of different themes that have popped up, story elements that have popped up that have maybe been resolved and gone dormant, or it's a recurring theme that keeps coming back. Like there's this religion theme that has been going threaded its way through the entire adventure, which is not anywhere near in the original module, but that's fine. So what are those things, and then how can we reincorporate, revisit, reintroduce them? Do we want to reintroduce those things into the finale? Is there some way that we can take the themes and motifs that we've been hitting throughout the course of the adventure and reintegrate them into the finale and heighten them in a way that you go, wow, okay, I really get it, right? And then finally, we're going to talk a little bit about breaking the rules. We may or may not get to this. This is also sort of something that's incorporated throughout our talk today, which is because it's a adventure finale, and then we're going to take a break from this plot line and whatnot, because we're putting a bow on this whole thing. We have the opportunity to really treat this almost like a one-shot that has a big backstory, right? Rather than part of a long, ongoing campaign. And therefore, we are allowed to break the rules and make things more epic, more interesting, more fantastic in a way that you wouldn't normally do in session 3 of 7 or session 3 of 15, as it turns out, right? So we'll discuss some possible ways that we can do that. But that's our overview. That's our agenda for the day. I'm going to try and keep it to a tight hour or so, because I have a lot of things that need to be prepped for tomorrow night. Yeah. It's going to be a big session.
It's a lot.
And I got some other stuff going on as well on the home front. I'm shooting a short film, so I have to go do a photo shoot as preparation for that. Thank you. All right. It was the reason I say that is the photo shoot was supposed to be last week, and there was a mix-up in the schedules, and so I had the photo shoot last week, but then we didn't get all the photos that we needed because there was a mix-up. Yep. That's fine. It happens.
That's how it works.
It's part of the duty. I have a real day job called being an actor. All right, so let's take a look through. Let's take a look through our plot vice from last session, right? So we did not plot radar, but we did plot vice. Try and jam as much stuff into particular encounters as we could. So if we take a look at this, this is from last week, right? Mm-hmm. So we dealt with the purple gnomes, the Eisengeister. That was taken care of. That was pretty. Well, it gets weird when it gets over on this camera. I see how it is. All right. So we dealt with those. This whole trapped on the ship things kind of came up, kind of didn't come up. Whatever. We talked about locations for this. They went to engineering, right?
Yes.
We talked about Warwint's deeds in history. They got information on the reactor. There were potential discoverables about actually escaping the ship, time dilation, dimensional instability. They got some of this stuff, right? So they got the time dilation part. They didn't get any information about actually escaping the ship. They don't seem to. There's not a lot of awareness of them escaping the ship. Well, all right, that's fine. And this portion of the adventure, they went into the God's Fire. They dealt with the weird gravity time space thing in the transformer room. There weren't any adversaries in there, but that's fine. That's fine. Did they discover anything else in there? I don't know. I don't know that they did. No. But then they got this shortcut from the Eisengeister, and they didn't have to go through the journey back and deal with the boiled children. So that leaves us with what was the fourth piece of our session that we didn't get really into, right? And the fourth piece was dealing with Tobias and Abigail and Basharla's vessel, and the location for that is bioengineering, which is where they ended up. And their potential adversaries are Sebastian. Well, it looks like their potential adversary at this point is Xanathar. Their allies are the doppelgangers. Are they still around? That's a good question. Discoverables, maybe implant new bodies for Tobias and Abigail or themselves or whoever, whatever, right? So we did knock off a big chunk of what we wanted to cover, right? So That's that was I thought, we didn't get to everything that I wanted to deal with, but in terms of knocking off the majority of it, we got 3/4, 2/3, however you want to describe it.
Yeah. I mean, I thought that we covered a lot of ground, considering what we had ahead of us, and
Like, I will say, you were right, Dom, in that this part of talking to the gnomes took longer than I expected. I didn't think they were going to talk that long to the gnomes. And this, I knew that this was going to take a while, but that was sort of our set piece encounter for the night.
right.
So that took a while. I was glad that we unlocked a shortcut and allowed them to get to bioengineering.
Yeah.
But yeah, you were absolutely right. I thought this encounter was going to be a little more disposable than it actually was.
Yeah. I think with the language barrier and other things, that I think perpetuated it longer than it necessarily we had intended.
Yeah.
But a lot of information was I think spread out over that. So yeah.
Right. So I don't think we really need to pull anything forward from this. But let's put a new sheet down for the plot vice, and kind of we're not going to do a full plot vice for tomorrow night at this point, or at least during our exercise today. But let's take a look at what open threads we absolutely like. It's absolutely mandatory for us to deal with, and just put them on here, and then we'll start figuring. This is not going to be divided out into like like we did last time, right? So last time we took the open stuff and we tagged it to a specific scene or encounter, right? Today, I don't think we're going to do that. I think we're going to use this more as a brainstorming opportunity so that we can kind of crisscross and start coming up with some ideas rather than a specific path that we want tomorrow night to go on.
Right.
So, open threads. Heel, Tobias, I think really, and Abigail, right? That's one thing that absolutely needs to be addressed too. Oh, well, Modern Chow. Did Modern Chow sub up again?
Offline
on Saturday. Ah, very good. Thank you, Modern Chow. Risky Pixels, welcome to
Hey, Risky.
the channel. So healing Tobias and Abigail is definitely something that the party needs to do, and it's a quest item a quest hook that needs to be resolved. No question about that.
Yeah.
I have 2 rerolls from last week that I didn't use that I'm gonna roll over. I'm gonna bring back. I guarantee I'm using them this week.
As long as you remember who gave them to you.
Yes, it was Jeff and Mary.
Jeff and Mary.
Yeah, they were really nice to me. I like Jeff, and I also like Mary. The other thing that's a hanging thing out there is Basharla's vessel. That's something that needs to be addressed as a quest item. Confront Xanathar is... I guess we have to write that down. It seems so obvious that...
Delrock's got it.
Yeah, thanks, Delrock, and thanks for backing me up on that. I appreciate your support and input.
Shimmickson?
Yes, was it Shimmickson? Did you know that Shimmickson's real name is Jeff and Mary? Yeah, that is music that's coming through the wall. Sorry about that.
Yeah.
That's the disadvantage I get. Well, no, it was on the labs last night, right?
Yeah, it was on the labs.
The disadvantage
Yeah.
of him
disadvantage
playing
of working
bass heavy music.
sharing a wall with people who work in sound design and stuff. Yeah.
Escape the ship. I think another thing that's hanging to do is deal with or heal with or whatever, resolve Thon's father, right? We'll just move this over temporarily. So I think these are all open threads and elements. Potentially, some of these things could be combined, right? You could, whatever means that, if they use bioengineering to heal Tobias and Abigail, they could potentially also do that with Thon's father, right? So some of those things could come together. Escaping the ship is its own discrete item. I think, one good way to look at this is what could be combined and what could not be combined, right? So confronting Xanathar and escaping the ship, maybe. I'm gonna put a wiggly line there. Maybe that's part of the same scene or part of the same action.
Okay.
Basharla's vessel, heal Tobias, Abigail, Thon's father. Maybe that's all bioengineering. Let's make those circles. So that maybe these three things are one scene. I mean, it or at least one location or one process. It could still be a longer scene because all of these things have to be addressed in that scene.
Right.
But you could also divorce some things like Thon's father. This depends upon whether Grav thinks of it.
He's not watching now, so.
Oh, okay.
Right?
I don't know. This is pretty much guaranteed to happen, right? We need to somehow deal with this. And the Basharla's vessel thing is probably something that's going to happen, and whether that's part of the same scene or atmosphere, I don't know. Like, what happens when Basharla's vessel is formed? Who knows? That's an outstanding question. Then what? Like, that's something you could ask for every single one of these things. Then what?
Yeah.
Okay, what are the implications? What are the outcomes here? Then what? I think Thon's father, if his situation somehow gets resolved, then what is there's a reconciliation scene in some way, shape, or form. Whether if it's Thon's father is permanently dead, then there's a time for mourning and memorializing him. If it's that Thon's father is back alive, then it's kind of the son confronts the father and talks about what happened or what the legacy is or whatever, right? Etc. Heal Tobias and Abigail, then what? Well, they probably want to go back to Oakhurst. Right? So that's the thing. All right. So those are our open plot threads. Those are the things that we have to do. I don't know that there's anything else particularly more that I want to add for sure into this thing, right? I think we could almost put on here as its own open thread is like denouement, right? If we're really thinking about these things as these are the triggers for individual scenes, and then we need to say all of this stuff precedes a final scene, which is denouement wrap-up. Now, that brings me to an important aspect that we need to consider as we plan all of this stuff out, right? So this is going to inform all of our prep for today, tonight, tomorrow's session, right? And that is, we're probably rolling up new characters when we come back for the next season of the Iron Keep. So these characters are going to retire, take a hiatus, something, right? Like we've made the decision, let's roll up new characters and kind of like start a new arc. Now where we start over with that or whatever, I don't know. That doesn't matter. The important thing being, let's make sure that whatever happens with them, let's give them a curtain call here and let them have their moment of expressing kind of like the ending of their arc, right? Like let them land the final arc of their character.
Right.
So it also gives us an opportunity to introduce, I would say, more danger, more drama, more potential complications or whatever, because we know that these characters are essentially going off screen. And that means there's an opportunity for not necessarily TPK, but a heroic sacrifice, something more dramatic to happen with that character. Who knows when we will pick them up again or what their role will be in the future. And I honestly don't know, but I think it does give us permission to raise the stakes, raise the danger, give the players opportunities to do something really dramatic, and let them help shape the potential destiny of this character in a way that running a adventure finale where, okay, and then we're going to start madness at Gardmore Abbey, you can't necessarily do if you're planning a session where, okay, and then next week we're going to pick up and start with this new plot thread or whatever, right? Generally in D&D, you try to plan around the survivability of your party members, right? I don't think you deliberately plan a session that is super high stakes and everybody could die. And oh, by the way, next week we're going to reconvene and use those same characters. I'm not saying that you should softball your adventure prep or whatever. I'm just saying there's a time and a place, and know when it's appropriate to raise the stakes and when you want to make sure that the party has ample opportunity to succeed in their given quest, right? So, something to think about as we go forward through today's discussion. Thomas W. DeYoung, welcome aboard. I don't Risky Pixels. I don't know if that announcement is exclusive today. I think we might have talked about it on Thursday.
That
I don't
we're
remember.
not continuing with these same characters.
Yeah.
Yeah, I think.
I don't remember if we brought it up before or not. I will say today it is more set in stone, right?
Yeah.
I don't see that's the what I'm planning to have happen when we come back from our break.
But everyone is playing a Githyanki Bard.
Everybody's playing a Githyanki Bard.
Yeah.
I did think about having an all gnome party just to
screw with your own.
Just to screw with my own
self.
Right. Mm-hmm.
An all gnome Bard party.
We'll call it Sirens of the Rooms. All right. So now let's run down our allies, enemies, and X factors, right? Where am I gonna put that? I'm gonna put those.
Cyclops.
Yeah.
Gray.
Right. I'm gonna cut this.
Basically the original X-Men.
No, stop.
Okay.
You know what? Don't make me punch you.
When they fought Darkseid.
Wait a minute. What? Was Ambush Bug involved? All right. A party of mimics. I love it. Mm-hmm. Our adversaries, people that we know are villains, right? For sure, Xanathar.
Oh yeah. That's
an easy one. All right. Here's what I'm doing with this part of it. I'm just brainstorming because I want to think about. This is part of actually our greater one of our next thing, right? These next few topics basically all tie into the major themes and elements to revisit. I want to revisit not just the major themes and story elements, but let's revisit the people that they have encountered, the places that they've been, and then when we get to the locations thing, also the places that they still could go, right? Okay. So, adversaries, people who are on the list. Xanathar for sure. Maybe Gingy? I don't know. We're going to put Gingy in the X Factor category is what we're going to do.
Yeah.
Do you remember the name of Xanathar's major domo, his lieutenant guy?
Do
you remember? I'd have to go back.
The Cockney dude?
Yeah.
I don't.
Mm-hmm.
All I remember is that he reminded me of, was it Minsk from Forgotten Realms?
Never read
Minsk
in the comic?
and Boo from Baldur's Gate.
Mm-hmm.
Anyway,
never read it, never played it. I'm not into lore. All right. So we're just gonna put his major domo on here. Oh, Thomas W. Young.
Thanks, Thomas W. D.
Nice.
Young. Let me know who you want to send that reroll to.
Mm-hmm. His major domo. I think other than that, all right.
Carl. His major domo, Carl.
Oh, I don't think it was.
No, I feel like it started with a B, but anyway.
I'd have to go back quite a ways.
Yeah.
Somebody go back and look it up on the internet. All right. So him. Who else would be the potential adversaries? Sebastian, I think, is pretty clearly one, right?
The Teka Pygmies?
Yeah, they sort of. I mean, they annihilated a lot of those guys, and then they made peace with that one dude. I'm gonna put them as an X factor.
Okay. Froggymoth?
I think the Froggymoth is an X factor. That thing does not take sides; it just eats stuff.
Yeah, that makes sense.
Right. Havana, Thomas W. DeYoung. I see how it is. All right. All right. So I think Xanathar, his major domo, Xanathar's forces, obviously. He's going to have something else, right?
Yeah.
And Sebastian, I think those are pretty good. That's a pretty good list of adversaries, right?
Do we have the beholders on T-Rex bodies? Are those X factors?
Oh, something that, let's see. AI or something that draws back the gods to their origin to battle. I think there's an X factor of the gods, right? Mm-hmm. What if the gods find out that this Scheisse is going down? Mm-hmm. That's problematic.
Scheisse is a bad word.
Scheisse is a bad German word. Maybe I should have made this longer or kept it in 2 columns. All right. There's a lot of X factors here. Allies, for sure that we know, right? This is... I'm tempted to maybe put this into the X factor category, but I think Basharla is an ally. Mm. She has clearly been helping the party.
Yeah.
And she's the patron of one of the party members. Mm-hmm. It'd be a pretty big twist if she wasn't.
Yeah.
I'm not saying that she couldn't turn on the party or that the party might not turn on her, because I think that Grayson has some misgivings about who she potentially would be, right? I think Thawne also is like, I'm not sure if she's cool. I don't know that Havana was one of those players that's like, I think she's on the edge about it. Like, I like having this cool dagger that flies around, and I'm down with like personal choice and whatnot, but also all of your chosen anointed people are creepy as all get out, right?
Right. Mm-hmm. So
I don't know. Basharla could potentially become an X factor, but I'm going to put her in the ally category. I think you put Alaris and the doppelgangers in the ally category, assuming that they're still alive. I think you could probably put the Eisengeister guys. Delrock asks if I'm planning for any adversary and plot twists with any of this. Maybe.
Or, as Unholy Urinal says, any previous adversary is to become a temporary ally.
Mm-hmm. Well, that's where Gingy is an X factor, right? Mm-hmm. You know? Eisengeister, maybe Angelica, right?
What about just the Vegapygmies in general?
Sure. I think they're probably allies, right? Mm-hmm.
Yeah, I would think they're more
the hippie ones, hippie dippy ones.
Angelica is Desk Lady.
Desk Lady, yes. I like my desk.
Hi, Demon Lord. I'm sorry, Demon Lord.
Demon Lord enemy. Very nice. I think the other people to put in the X Factor category here are, I think the robots on the ship are an element that we need to bring back in, right? Mm-hmm. And I'm not sure what role they play, but they're such a weird integral part of the thing that I think we need to bring them back somehow. Now, I think they make a good X Factor because they could be controlled by the adversaries. They could be controlled by the allies. They're an easy X Factor to turn into one of those like swingy kind of elements, right? Where it's like, oh, and now I have the box, and they all turn and they attack that guy, right? And that's a great dramatic moment that isn't particularly hard to set up, that players love taking advantage of, that, doesn't necessarily have to be programmed to go one way or the other. Blind Seer says, was Gingy Xanathar's helper? Not really. Gingy was a character from the very first season who was Gingy the Poisoner, and he developed all this terrible stuff and did a deal with the party, and the party doesn't really like him because partially he's indirectly responsible for Thawne's dad dying. Thawne's father was poisoned, and Gingy made the poison that killed him. He did not administer it, but he poisoned him. Gingy subsequently escaped and popped back up in Waterdeep, and the party found him and sort of befriended him, and then he got caught by Xanathar kind of double dealing, and Xanathar began torturing him.
Didn't they kind of sell him out, though, to Xanathar?
Yeah, I think so. Yeah. But Gingy then sold the party out to him, right? It's an interesting situation in that Thawne basically wants to murder the guy, and Grayson wants to try and redeem the guy. So I don't know. I think he's a very interesting character. How does he show up in this thing is a great question. So those are our adversaries. We really have Xanathar and his forces, potentially including Gingy. And then Sebastian as... I think the other adversary, if you want to call it that, is the ship, right? Or more accurately, the state of the ship.
Yeah.
Because I think things are going to begin going bad quickly in terms of the ship, right? So that's our lineup of the forces that are involved in this particular final session, right? Whether they all get deployed, I doubt it. That's fine. They're not all equally interesting. If you look at what's interesting, it's like Xanathar has a lot of story weight. Sebastian potentially has a lot of influence, being an AI on the ship. He could potentially influence a lot of events on the ship, but he doesn't carry as much weight with the party. Xanathar definitely does. Black Dragon 8K, when you talk about Asmodeus, I include him in the gods, right?
Yeah.
So Xanathar he's our big bad. We got to make sure that we make him shine. Basharla carries a lot of plot weight. I don't know that Basharla carries as much story weight with the party as maybe she would with other parties or whatever. Yeah. I don't know. I just don't think that... I don't think the party the players are as hooked into Basharla's fate. They just don't really... It's not a priority for them.
Yeah.
For whatever reason. That also makes her a good X Factor, right? If it turns out that she is a bad person or whatever, great. I don't know. We still have to pay her due because she's essentially one of the reasons that one of the party members is even on this quest.
What about our fearless glass ship captain?
Oh yeah. I don't remember what we called that character.
Captain Singh? Captain, no.
I'd have to go back and look. I could put the Skyship captain and the Cloud Giants on here. I feel weird about bringing her back as an NPC because she's not here to play that character. Sure. It feels like appropriating or at least kind of railroading her character's role, even though it doesn't matter. It's within my purview to do that. It just feels a little weird. And potentially the Cloud Gigantes.
Gigantes.
Like giants. Yes. I think we'll get someplace with Basharla, Tasharla, Kasharla. We'll just see. You know, I was just thinking about this. I don't know that Tobias and Abigail really figure into this at all.
Not
As
in the
allies or
fight.
adversaries. There's more like they're more maybe even pawns to be manipulated, but I don't think that's
I think if
interesting
anything,
either.
if anything, they're gonna get healed or whatever,
Yeah.
or not, and
Yeah.
then just be like, you gotta sit this one out,
Yeah,
Mom and Dad.
yeah, you'll be okay.
Rest up.
Hang back.
Yeah.
All right. So these are our players. I think Basharla. I think Alaris, the doppelgangers, have kind of a role. Like they seem like I think they have a role to play. And everybody else, and Gingy, right? Well, let's put it this way. I think Gingy is important. I think the Frog Hemoth is important. It was such an iconic encounter.
Mm-hmm.
And I do think that the robots are important, right? So if I'm going to prioritize who my NPCs are, those are the 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6 groups that I really pay attention to. That doesn't mean that these other people can't play a role, but they play a supporting role, right? So, all right, let's move on to possible locations. Now, there are a bunch of places that we've been on the ship. So, where could, let's assume that there's 2 major scenes and a denouement, right? There might be kind of like a little bit more or less than that if we decide to do some kind of like cutaway scenes or like quick throwaway type of stuff. But we're going to have a scene of essentially, let's heal Tobias, deal with Basharla's vessel, Thon's father, kind of whatever that thing is. We've already identified that. And then we're going to have some sort of confront Xanathar, potentially escape the ship kind of thing, right? Like, we're going to have basically a preparing for the war kind of scene, and we're going to have the confronting Xanathar, that is the war kind of scene.
Yeah.
And then we'll have some denouement, right? Like, those are the 2 major blocks. Maybe we foreshadow them with 1 or 2 quick scenes, either in between someplace, but those are our main chunks, and then our third thing is going to be, let's get out of it, right? Where are the potential locations for those things going to happen? So very clearly, we could use the bioengineering deck. That's where they are right now. So that's almost a given, right? Where else have they been that seems like an interesting and compelling location, right? I mean, the deck below is interesting, the flooded deck.
Mm-hmm.
Do you want to have an underwater combat fight? I don't know. Maybe.
Okay.
I don't know.
I can do some cool light effects.
So, yeah, we saw some of that last night. So maybe the flooded deck. Let's just brainstorm this. We could put them down in a hell/engineering. We keep in mind, Beacon, that we're just going on a short hiatus. We're not going away.
We'll be back, and there will be things in place here on Wednesday nights. So never you fear. Wednesday we'll still have stuff on this channel.
We're dedicated to bring you the quality content you've come to enjoy.
The Lido deck, yeah.
Yes. Yeah. So
I know. I was really hoping you'd use the gymnasium finally from or the theater.
Just get out. Get away from
Basketball court.
Yeah. So now, Hell Engineering, flooded deck. We could potentially put something in the. We made the boards for it. We have the Hell 1.
Mm-hmm.
1, aka the Doppelganger deck, right? And we had the battle mats, like the battle boards made for that. So that would that's an enticing option just because that's already made. But whatever. I think attached to that would be the doppelganger's cargo bay. They clearly like live in some sort of weird, cargo bay or ship bay or something like that, right? So that could be extended somehow, right? We could take those boards and go, okay, you pop up here. Oh yeah, I remember this place, and then add a couple more boards and like, oh, here we are in the cargo bay. Oh, this is amazing, right? So that's a good way to kind of graft a new location onto an existing location. Some other places that we have mentioned, Thomas W. Young brings up the hull of the ship. Hull or outside.
Mm-hmm.
The ship. And another location that's been mentioned that they have not visited is the antenna array. Right? It's been mentioned a bunch of times. They keep talking about, oh, we've been channeling all this power for the we've been channeling all this power. And the players have never really followed up on it. And they're just kind of like, okay.
Mm-hmm.
And they've been told, well, we're hoping that it's because there's a message that's being transmitted to like an SOS signal. Maybe they just accept that as like that's what's actually happening. Who knows? But it's been mentioned so many times. It could be an interesting location. And I don't know. I've been like picturing in my mind, what if we built some sort of like tower that they would then kind of have to like fly along or climb along or something like that and have kind of this interesting three-dimensional combat. I don't know that it would really fly in our particular setup because of the cameras. If I have a big tower in front of my face, it's in front of my face.
Right.
So that's a strike against it for us, for our setup here. But if I was doing a home game, maybe kind of a King Kong, like fight your way to the top of the antenna tower could be, as the biplanes buzz around and whatnot, in a sci-fi reskin, could be cool and fun.
Yeah.
I don't know. There's another place that I think we need to consider here, and that is the bridge. We've never mentioned the bridge. We've never been to the bridge. But if I want to think of two places that are iconic, crucial places that it would be important to control if I wanted to control a ship, it would be the bridge and it would be the engine room. Well, they've been to the engine deck, then literally the engine deck, but they've never been to the bridge. So it's an opportunity to go, hey, before he can get there, we need to get there and take control of the ship. Maybe. We're brainstorming here, right? But I think those are the interesting possible locations. I don't know if there's anything else that chat has an idea for, but those are the main ones that I can think of.
Right. Yeah. I agree with that. Mudroom.
Mudroom. Unholy Urinal says, is there something clever you can do with the water on the flooded deck, such as create a steam vapor weapon? Yeah, maybe. I mean, one thing that's not on here that maybe should be on here is the boiled children. They made a promise to save those people. I don't think they have any intention of fulfilling that promise.
I don't think I have any idea how, right?
Yeah, right. And I think in terms of our time constraints that we have to get this thing wrapped up, we can't really revisit it. I think if it was important, if we had time and it was important to give them that opportunity, I would have made them journey back through the flooded deck. And
it could be that once Barshala is corporealized, that maybe she might be able to do something with the boiled children.
Right.
Because that's sort of her domain. They're in her domain.
Anyway. Yeah. Medical bay, communication room.
There's got to be desks involved somehow. Right?
I think the thing about medical bay is that ties into the bioengineering. I mean, they could go back to the medical facility, but I think there's so much medical stuff already on the bioengineering deck that it feels like unnecessary travel.
Yeah.
In terms of being able to like shortcut to the heart of the task, just have them have a bioengineering bed that does almost everything else that the medical bay does.
Right.
All right. So let's take a look at the major themes and elements. Distress beacon. Did we already do the distress beacon, foreshadowing of some other fate to befall the lands?
Oh, is this regarding the destruction of the ship? If the ship implodes or whatever, and it would blow out.
Mm-hmm. I don't know. I don't think we really have. Like, I think it's important. Maybe we'll just kind of put it under discoverable here. Is that a warning or distress beacon is likely to go off, right? And I think we ended last session on sort of a... Oh, Black Dragon AK says they get to the bridge and find out that the distress beacon was turned on since it has been parked for so long. And they finally get a call from some of their ships saying they're coming for them. That's interesting. You know, fundamentally, it makes the premise of the encounter hold out until help arrives, right? It's sort of an Alamo kind of situation. I like that idea. I think the issue with it is it's a little bit Deus Ex Machina.
Right.
And also it creates this thing where the savior of the party is somebody who is largely disconnected from anything that has come before.
Yeah.
Right? If we had foreshadowed, like, well, we have, you know, put out an emergency call to this force called the, I don't know, the Fragolagans or whatever, you know, whatever alien race you want to make up, and we're hoping that they'll come and get to us, then you could have some sort of kind of connective tissue that would get you to that step.
Right.
But with a third party coming to rescue them, it just seems a little all too neat, kind of wrapped up in a bow. And then when they get there, the party is just like, well, thanks, guys. You know, they don't have any connection to that rescuing party. Whereas if the rescuing thing is something like, say, Torm shows up, then it's like, wow, okay, you know,
yeah,
like it's a major moment. They're connected to Torm, right?
Right.
Yeah. I mean, the time displacement stuff is... Yeah, a ship of mind flayers shows up. That would be fun too.
We tie it back into the mind.
We haven't, you know, I mean, mind flayers do appear in this adventure, and we haven't had them appear in this adventure, and that would be fun. I just don't know how we fit that in anymore.
Yeah.
Unless it's part of Xanathar's forces, you know. He's in league with a mind flayer. It could be pretty weird. I don't know that. I don't know. That's what I have to say about that. I don't know. But speaking of warning and distress beacon, we sort of ended on a warning, right? Like, they got this message, like, Xanathar's... They drew the conclusion that Xanathar's here. All we heard was, there's eyes, so many eyes.
Right, right.
If it's not Xanathar, it's some major garbage. So, the shield in the back is glowing with colors. It's one of our fine special effects here at Saving Throw. All right. So, other elements that we need to revisit here that I think could come up, right? So, we're going to call this callbacks, right? We'll just call this callbacks.
Callbacks.
Callbacks. All right. Big things. Theology / cosmology.
Garav does still have the replaced eye, blind seer.
Oh yeah, good point. Let's put that down here under potential twists. We're just gonna write down Borg Thon. So this is like heaven, hell, whatnot. Also related to this is history of the gods. Let's write on the part of the screen that you can see. We did not establish why Xanathar is coming aboard, but...
I mean, we established that Xanathar sent them here to bring them back
To get the God's Fire.
To get the God's Fire. So he has a purpose for being there.
Mm-hmm.
But
I don't think it's out of the blue.
No, but we have not established necessarily why now he's coming in. But
yeah. I think we'll talk about that really under sort of breaking the rules.
Yeah.
Oh, did I got too ambitious with my with my plot points here. So, all right. So, history of the gods. What else am I?
Oh no, it was only sized for this page.
I see.
All right. I needed to resize it.
That's fine. Some other things that have been introduced. This weird like silver plague. Cloning and transformation. What else do I have under here? Oh, time dilation. Trying to think what other major sort of recurring themes have come up in this thing. Well, so one thing that we should put down here is like a logical weapons and equipment. Plant monsters, I think, is just a general way of stating that.
No, there's not usually music. We just our neighbors are working through some sound stuff right now, and we're trying to determine if it's picked up more by this new microphone or not. I don't think it's picked up any more than it normally is. It's just normally he's not working on music like this.
Yeah, he's not working on music that's so bass heavy.
Yeah.
And the Cloud Giants have not been reintroduced at all. I think it would be like a big callback, but you know, it's out there. Maybe, I don't know. I'm gonna put it in parentheses because it's a pretty. It would be a great callback if they were like, oh shit, but it could be also just be like way out of the blue. Like what? The difference is like if you mention something twice, then the third time it shows up, people go, oh yeah. If you mention something once and then it should, you know, there's no mention of it again. When you bring it back, they go, oh yeah. You know, it's too isolated. It feels like you're reaching for a connection. They're not connected to who that element is. So, Dr. Faust's painting clinic is brainstorming Xanathar heading to the bridge to take over the ship and destroy Waterdeep. The PCs have to stop him before he can bring the ship to bear on Waterdeep. That's interesting. I think it's important, though, to keep in mind the original motivation why they were sent on this thing, right? So Xanathar said, get me the God's Fire so that I can become immortal. Now, that's the theme that we need to reinforce. Like, I love the kind of, like, you know, scheming, devious plan kind of, like the evil genius kind of, I'm the mastermind who's going to destroy Waterdeep. Like, that's an interesting, very sort of comic book superhero kind of angle. But I think we need to make sure that we tie in like what his stated motivation was that launched the entire adventure hook. Otherwise, the players are like, well, why did we? Wait a minute. The dangerous thing that can be asked at any time by the players is, why are we on this adventure anyhow? And you as the DM always have to kind of pay a little bit of credit to whatever your motivating hook was. Otherwise, they go, well, wait, but he just wanted to destroy Waterdeep? Why didn't he just do that? Like, why did he have to send us to this ship? That doesn't make any sense. Whereas if you say, okay, he's on the ship and decided you're not going to deliver the Fountain of Youth potion that he wants, he's going to come take it for himself. They go, yeah, all right, that's fair. He is.
Right.
We are screwing him over, right? Then the whole it makes the motivation clear, coherent, consistent, and he's reacting to an action that the players are taking. Makes the world feel dynamic and responsive, right? So that's that. I can't think of any other callbacks. I guess we could put this under we've got it under the location, but I think whatever's going on with the antenna array is a major theme, or is at least a theme, a callback, an element. Did we put it down on here? God's Fire. Why didn't I put that a lot? I thought of it earlier. I don't know why I didn't put it a lot.
I think you put it somewhere else, maybe.
No, didn't get it in there. I meant to put that closer to the top of the list. That's huge, right? Likewise, I think Basharla, however you want to picture her as an entity or individual, like she's an ongoing presence, especially like the absence of the other gods, right? Mm-hmm. You know, history of the gods, and then she's the only god that can be worshipped in this place. That's pretty interesting. It was another remarkable moment in the session last week when the Eisengeister guys were like, "Oh, Masharla, the ghost who lives in the walls," and they were like, "Ghost who lives in the walls," and then they never asked a follow-up question about it. All right, guys. Can the God's Fire have a secondary purpose that you need to activate the ship? I think it has, there's all kinds of implications for the God's Fire, right? What it is, etc.
It's sort of a MacGuffin that you can kind of make into anything. Right.
All right. I think those are all of the major elements that we have covered in the scope of this adventure as far as I can remember them, unless there's something significant that I'm forgetting. All right. Let's move on then to breaking the rules. So this is just sort of like I'm not going to get into a huge amount of detail on this, but when we look at this in terms of this is a session that's going to cap. Hey, Unholy Urinal, thank you very much for the bit.
Yeah.
100 million bits.
Wow. 100 million.
Wow. We would take it. Yeah. There was a sale on Twitch yesterday where you could get...
If you were Twitch Prime.
Prime.
I'm not sure if it's still available, but
I don't think so.
Twitch Prime, you could get, if you had a Twitch Prime subscription, or just a Prime, Amazon Prime subscription, you could get 500 bits for 99 cents. It's a pretty good deal.
Yeah, it's literally 80% off.
Yeah.
So when we look at this as being sort of an adventure finale, a season finale, we're probably going to retire these, not probably, we're going to retire these characters in some way, shape, or form. We have a huge opportunity here to make this session even more non-traditional, I guess, the deal is still good. Awesome. I guess more high heroic fantasy than we normally would in anything else. Hey, awesome. Thank you.
Oh, thanks, Glenn's here.
Appreciate it.
Thank you very much.
So, the way that can play out is we can throw far more enemies at our party than we might normally do. We can also give them far more powerful allies than we might normally do. We could imbue them with new, different, heightened abilities that they don't normally have. Modern Chow.
Modern Chow, thank you very much.
111 bits.
Very
awesome.
Nice. Well played, everybody. Well played.
Wow. Appreciate it. So I think there's a bunch of different opportunities here to take the game to give it sort of that epic conclusion, right? They are fighting an iconic villain, Xanathar, okay? In a season finale type of episode. To me, that means it is not the beholder that comes out of the books. Number one, it's Xanathar, and number two, it's the capper. So let's make this guy really interesting, weird, different, unexpected. They're expecting a really tough beholder. Okay, how do we take that, break the rules around it, twist it, heighten it, make it even worse, right? Likewise, how do we give them opportunities to equip themselves to fight something like this? Because I'm thinking like a guy like Xanathar probably has like either lair actions or legendary actions, right? Well, he's not in his lair, so we've got to give him the rules alternative there is to give him legendary actions, right? Great. Let's give him legendary actions. We have to bear in mind that our party is technically only level 6. Maybe they punch as like a level 8, right? And they're a little dinged up, right? Not terrible, but they're a little dinged up. So let's find a way to either give them allies who can act as shields while they, activate the equipment that does X, Y, or Z. Or let's give them body armor or increase Grayson's power armor to something better or whatever. So let's break the rules in a way that makes this more of a giant robots fighting Godzilla type of, Pacific Rim type of experience rather than level 6 guys, scrappy little guys fighting something that would seriously outclass them and should disintegrate them kind of at the drop of a hat, right? So ways that we can do that are giving them allies who have better abilities, giving them X factors, things that they can shift in their favor if they do the right thing, placing it in a location that has these same kind of like tipping kind of elements where maybe this part of the location is bad for you. Perhaps it's is filled with radiation, but the result of that is Grayson and Ava both get powered up from the radiation, while the other two players start to are trying to hold on to it. Whatever, right? So we can build things into our epic location that then spiral. I think there's also something to be said for having that kind of like what's like the classic anime thing or the classic Star Wars thing, but in reverse, right? So instead of the Death Star is coming into range, you could have we're charging the gate that is going to activate and teleport us all out of here, right? We're charging the escape pod, we're fueling it or whatever it is. So it could be a count up to, when this trips off, then we can all jump inside and get out of here, right? That sort of thing. I think you can also look at some of the standard rules restrictions and break them and say, okay, everybody gets 2 bonus actions in a round, or everybody gets a double movement or whatever. Like you can change that stuff like we did last time with the gravity, right? Okay, sometimes the gravity was a hindrance, sometimes the gravity actually helped them, right? I don't want to go back to a huge let's roll for gravity every round, but it would be interesting to go, okay, this place is permeated with tons of radiation, so it's really deadly, but it's minimal gravity, so you can move twice as fast, right? And zip around the battlefield. That's not a terrible idea. Those types of complications.
If you make it a permanent kind of thing, then it will not become like a huge distraction. Then they can incorporate it rather than trying to prepare around that and around the fight.
Or if it's a predictable type of thing, right?
Sure. Yeah.
So rather than having to roll every time and consult and here's what happens and here's the respect, you could have a gravity track, right? That starts with minimal gravity, you move 3 times your speed. Then it goes to microgravity, you move double your speed. Then it goes to normal gravity, you move 1 time your speed. Then it goes to heavy gravity, you move half your speed. Then it goes to, oppressive gravity, where you can only move like 10 feet or something like that. Right?
Well, yeah.
And you could and so during the course of the combat, you could tell them this thing is going to escalate. You would tell them it's on the board here. Here's what's going to happen with that, etc. Right?
Yeah.
What were you going to say?
Oh, just that can increase the thing where they're planning out and going, because I remember last week with the electricity and the gravity and everything, they were having trouble playing with those things in a way that allowed them to do more.
Right.
And so if you're like changing every round or whatever, or every turn that they have, every round, that the gravity changes effects, right? Because then they're going to be like, okay, well, I'm going to dash over here and do this, and I'm going to attack that guy, and then you are constantly like, oh, but don't forget your gravity is at twice the amount of stuff this time, you know. Then they're constantly thinking about environment and all that other stuff. Where if you set it at the beginning, gravity is half normal, so you can move twice as fast.
That's just what it is.
Then it's just just that.
Right. Yeah, it does get to be a complicated slider. I agree with that.
Yeah, I think that's fun for sure. But I think with all of these things that they're going to be dealing with, I think we probably want to limit any external factors to bare minimums.
Right. I'm honestly just like brainstorming different things that you can do to break the rules. So like that's just an example of the way that something normally works. Yeah. Normally you move your speed, you get one action, you get one bonus action, you get one reaction. You have an opportunity in this finale to crank those knobs in ways that would normally be game breaking. But because it's the last session, who cares? What if they end up overpowered? Who cares? Right. I mean, as somebody suggested, maybe they somehow harness the God's Fire to literally become gods themselves.
Sure, yeah.
Why not? Why not necessarily in terms of that's going to happen, but why not consider that? Because that's a really interesting, dramatic moment. So when you're building a true kind of like finale like this, you have the license to wreck the game or to mess around with things that aren't necessarily you shouldn't be messing around with.
Right.
But that's fine. As long as it doesn't as long as the players don't go, well, you just changed something so fundamental that we're all screwed. Okay, well, gravity is triple strength and you can only move 10 feet. And everybody goes,
right.
Okay, well, I can't move. I'd like to go over and attack that guy, but I can't move.
Yeah.
So I'm going to double move and move 20 feet. Can we get to round 8 where I can actually close with the guy? Because I'm a melee fighter and you've screwed me.
Right.
So that's something to think about is maybe a particular type of damage or a particular type of magic has double the effect or whatever it is, right? Or a particular type of magic is so enhanced that it cuts through all immunities that would normally be, maybe God's Fire is so potent that it cuts through regular fire immunity or whatever.
Sure.
Right? That sort of stuff. So those are the things that I think I would encourage you, if you're going to plan something like this, to kind of like put your mind around is if we're going to make Xanathar our Godzilla and we're going to make the party the, plucky Japanese scientists who decide to fight him, what do we arm them with to make this thing more of an equal battle? Right. And sometimes that's messing with the fundamental game mechanics, and then sometimes it's just giving them a bunch of firepower. What if they find one of those little shoulder-mounted tactical nuke things? That would be a great callback, right? That would be a terrific, turnabout is fair play. I'm just going to put shoulder nuke.
Yeah.
Because they had it used on them. And this is something that I think is especially potent when you think about elements that are going to come back, right? Is what are things that were used against the party that you can now flip over and give them control of and let them use it to their advantage?
Right.
That's, they fought a bunch of robots and really had a tough time fighting robots. What if you give them the opportunity to take control of the robots? Awesome. They had somebody literally fire a nuclear weapon at them. What if they found another one, used it against Xanathar? Awesome. That's the kind of twist and reveal that really pays dividends at the game table in the session, right? Where their eyes light up and go, wait, we can do that now? Yes, I want to do that. All right. So I think that's sort of as much of the discussion as I want to follow today. You know, my hope is to be able to build some sort of set piece, you know, encounter area, whether that's something we've talked about, you know, an antenna array, or they fight on the hull of the ship, or they fight on the bridge, or whatever it is. I'd love to be able to put that together so that we have kind of a 3D tactical combat to go through. That's a whole different discussion of like, how do you make something like that? And maybe we'll talk about it on Thursday. It depends upon what I manage to get together. I can't get it together if I spend all afternoon talking to you guys. Yeah, but this Borg Thawne thing is definitely an element that could be, you know, that could be somehow enhanced. The capabilities that are available to them in the bioengineering area are fairly potent, and that's a plausible in to give them additional power.
Well, I think, didn't we unlock the creature?
Yeah, they have like an enhanced list of creature forms that they can generate out of the bioengineering sleeve, right?
Potentially.
Now, whether they put themselves or Tobias into that thing or whatever is up. It's a jump ball.
Right. Although with Grayson could use his doppelganger powers finally in a game-changing sense and change into something a little bit more appropriate.
Yeah, he could change into, he could.
Comfortable.
I mean, honestly, part of that is like there is an opportunity to, like, for him to become fully human if he wants to.
Sure. Yeah.
Right?
Mm-hmm. Lame.
Yeah. So I think there's definitely like some real possibilities there.
Yeah.
And that I think is part of our scene here, right? Is, you know, heal Tobias and Abigail, and then do they take advantage of the power that they have left? Great question.
Yeah.
Great question. Do they use it to help Thawne's father? I don't know. So that's
with these players, anything is possible. I feel like.
Yeah, I'm really unclear as to like what they're going to do with their these opportunities, because they've had some different opportunities that they've just sort of like flung by the wayside. So I don't know what they're going to do with this tomorrow night. It's an interesting. I don't know. It's an open question. I don't know what they're going to decide, like what they want their character's quote unquote legacy to be. Right.
Right. And I feel like we should mention what's happening at the end of the season.
Do you want to bring that up now?
Yeah.
Mm-hmm.
I mean, best to bring it up now than later.
That's fine by me. It's up to you. I'm on board with whatever you decide.
Well, so Megan and Garav, this will be their final Iron Keep. So
they're going to take a break.
They're going to take a break. Yes.
They may come back at some point, but next season when we launch with the new characters and whatnot, we're going to be shuffling the cast a little bit.
Yeah.
And you know, to their credit, they do so much other stuff for the channel that I completely get that, you know, showing up every week for literally months. Like how many? We were talking about this last night. Like how many months have they been playing since the Waterdeep mystery kind of got introduced?
Yeah.
So. When was that? Like October? It's been 6 months or something like that.
It's been a while. Yeah. I mean, Megan joined right after Amy stepped away.
Right.
So,
and Grav's been there since the beginning. So it's a big commitment. They've decided to take a break from the show for however long that means. That is up to them. They're certainly welcome to come back anytime. So that means that when we come back to the Iron Keep, we'll have 2 new cast members. No, we haven't decided who that is yet, but we're, you know, floating names and and reaching out to people and trying to figure out what the right mix is for the table and whatnot. But
apparently, what all this means is next season you're GMing with an Irish accent.
It's right. Yes, I'm going to GM with an Irish accent all of next season. I don't know. That's the best Jeff Sessions impression I can do. So.
Politics joke.
Always after me, Keebler.
Always after
Charms. What?
He's
No.
after the Justice Department.
So they may decide with their characters they want to do something, especially like kind of big and out there. I don't know. I think everybody kind of, it's on the table if they choose to pursue it.
Yeah,
I'm not opposed to. I want to give them a lot of free reign. Let's put it that way, to shape their character's legacy the way that they see fit.
Yeah.
So.
Yeah.
If that means that Eric wants his character to become an actual human and fulfill his Pinocchio-like dreams, that's fine. If it means he's finally accepted his true identity as a doppelganger, and maybe something else happens, that's fine too. I want that to largely be under their control, so I'm thinking of ways that I can incorporate that, but that also makes it interesting for them.
Right.
So... Ava, the voice of reason, and also goofy jokes. Yes. So that's what's happening with the show on a meta level, and that's also what we have before us in terms of an in-game experience. So
maybe we upgrade Ronald PP Dusty Bones to a player character.
I really feel like I should write down Ronald PP Dusty Bones on here somewhere.
Oh yeah,
because
it would be great.
I'm gonna put him under twists.
If she finally remembers.
Oh my god. PP Dusty Bones. There's a lot of forgetting going on. All right. Including my own. My body is ready. Okay. So, everyone, thank you so much for joining us for today's Disorganized Play. All of your input and comments are duly noted and considered and appreciated, so that's cool. I really do appreciate us having these types of discussions. I hope it was helpful for you. It was definitely helpful for me to kind of like get things down here on paper. Thanks to everybody who kicked in bits today. Really appreciate that.
Yeah, thanks,
just
guys.
a reminder that apparently the Twitch Prime sale is still going on. So if you want to get loaded up for tomorrow night, because now remember, tomorrow night session starts at 7 p.m. Pacific. Does not start at 8 p.m. Pacific. It's an early show. It starts at 7. Don't show up at 8 o'clock and go, what is happening?
That's 10 o'clock Eastern for all you Eastern folks
10
who are like,
p.m.
I can't watch starting
I
at
can't
11.
possibly do that.
Well, it's an hour
you will
earlier.
want to come and potentially chip in with your bits or coins or whatever, bitcoins, however you want to sponsor the show. We're going to have a ladder of joy, which will be massive and very, I think, kind of swingy. So that is the plan. So, yes, tomorrow night at 7 o'clock, you can see how all of this plays out right here on Saving Throw Show. Tonight at 8 o'clock was episode 2 of The Last VHS Store with DM DJ
Omar Najam.
Omar Najam. Yes, very good. Hi, buddy. You need to lay down, huh? Just for a couple more minutes. So tune in for that later tonight. That starts in 4.5 short hours. So get stoked. That wasn't a 90s phrase, was it? Lay down. Stoked? I'm stoked. I think that was more of an 80s thing.
Yeah.
Not that I was born in 87, so I don't,
Yeah, you were
I was young.
millennial.
My
if anything.
parents used to use it around the crib a lot. While we were watching the show that was
Cribs
on
the show. Sure.
MTV. Was it MTV?
Yeah.
Yeah. So thanks so much to Farquaad and all of our other moderators who help keep the channel safe, friendly, clean, and accessible. Thanks so much, everyone. I hope the microphone did you all justice. We didn't hear any other sound complaints, so I guess that is cool. Other than the sound complaints that are coming from behind us, there's nothing that we can do with that. Yeah. Tune in for tonight. Stay tuned for tomorrow night. Thank you so much for your time, energy, and passion for spreading the word. That's the only way that we get the word of the show around is by you sharing it on social media. So thanks so much for all of your support. We really appreciate it. Until next time, let's dungeon! Happy birthday! Happy birthday! Happy birthday!
everybody. Let's dungeon disorganized play.
Modern Chow, thanks for the bits.
Thanks, Modern Chop.